It was mid-2018. I was 23, and had driven down to Vermont to see my family, and hang out for a few weeks. While there, I also wanted to go camping since my parents' house was just outside of the Appalachian Mountains. When I used to live with them still, I'd go out all the time. But since I moved out, I hadn't had the chance to go out camping, or even hiking at all. There was one place specifically that I'd had on my mind for a while. Just before I moved, I found a trail on a forum for people exploring abandoned structures, and I'd been wanting to check it out ever since. This trail supposedly led to an old lodge, just right in the middle of the forest. So on a Monday morning, I drove out there. I parked on the side of the road, and the trail was not marked or anything. This was clearly just some rough path made by random people, like me, wanting to explore the abandoned lodge. It was very overgrown, though, so it looked like nobody had been down there in a while. The hike there took just under 2 hours, and while it was mostly flat, it was a pretty difficult walk, because of all the weeds and bushes growing into the path. But regardless, I made it. Now, my plan was to camp inside the lodge, because why not? But I came prepared with a tent and everything in case it was completely destroyed or something. Good thing I did, because it was clear from the outside that it definitely wasn't safe to camp in. Most of the roof was gone, caving into itself, and the logs it was made of were full of thick fines and mold. The door was wide open, though, so I peeked my head inside and looked around. It smelled awful, and with all the decayed and destroyed parts everywhere, there wasn't much access to anything that I could look around. There was a door on the far end of the main hallway that looked intact, and I was trying to get to, but it was a bit too sketchy to get there, so I ended up just backing out. From there, I didn't have anything else planned. But with the sun already starting to set, I began looking around for a good place to set up camp. There really weren't many options, so I basically just walked 200 feet out from the lodge, and cleared a small spot to put my tent. As the sun set, the darkness slowly covered the lodge in the distance, until I could no longer see it, and all the forest sounds slowly turned into crickets. In the warm crackle of the small campfire I built, I really wanted to stargaze, but the spot I was in had trees towering over me, blocking most of the view. Plus, it was partially cloudy, so I just sat there throwing sticks into the fire and thinking about whatever came to mind, until I heard something. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was pretty loud, maybe like wood boing or bending, and even though I couldn't see the lodge anymore, the sound came from right where I knew the lodge was sitting in the dark. It only lasted a few seconds, but it sent chills through me. Maybe it was just the old wood bending and creaking in the wind, or maybe it was something else. I sat and listened for a while, like 30 minutes, without hearing anything else. It was only an hour or so into the night, but I knew if I didn't check on it now, I wouldn't be able to sleep later. So, I figured I might as well go look around. While it was still early into the night, I fueled up my campfire with some more sticks before leaving so I wouldn't have to rebuild it. Then I grabbed my small LED lamp and walked in the direction of the lodge. After only a minute of walking, the structure faintly showed up in the lights. It was as creepy as expected. I walked up to it cautiously, passing by a couple destroyed windows, and holding the light up. Inside, it was extremely dark. Even with the light, it felt like I could barely see anything. When I got to the door, I was startled for a moment. It was closed. I'd been here less than 2 hours ago, and left it wide open. Then I noticed something else. There were scratches like from nails or maybe a knife, all along the front face of the door. I didn't notice them last time, so I wasn't sure if they were already there, or had just happened, and were maybe the sound I heard. I debated for a second whether or not I even wanted to try opening it, or if I should just leave. But it was all for nothing, because when I eventually decided to open it, I couldn't. It felt like something was holding it shut from the other side. I got really unsettled, and didn't stay any longer. I backed away from the lodge, and rushed back into the woods toward my campsite. However, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Aside from my lantern, there was no light coming from the forest. I started to hurry, hoping I was still going in the right direction. Luckily, I was, and a minute later, I made it back to my tent. A column of smoke filled the air above. What was my campfire? As if someone had just abruptly put it out, while it was still burning. I looked around, just standing there holding my lantern up, barely able to see anything in the trees. Hello? Hello? Who's out there? Nobody responded. Starting to feel chills run through me again. I knew it was only a 2-hour hike back to where my car was, so I quickly decided to pack and head out. I took down my tent, and as I shoved the few remaining things into my backpack, I heard something nearby. I stopped for a second and held up my lantern, but still saw nothing. It sounded like someone was laughing. It was quiet, and not like someone laughing with their friends or anything. It was a single person softly laughing under their breath, as they watched me from behind the trees in the dark, like they were insane. I hurried up, leaving scraps behind, and booking it to the trail with my crappy lantern. It was really hard to follow the path, but I did the best I could. Several times I stopped thinking. I heard that soft laughing and worried I was being followed. But whoever it was stalking me out there, they were blending in with the dark perfectly, as I never once even caught sight of them. I got back to the road, getting in my car and driving away. I look back at that experience 7 years later, as the single most disturbing and horrifying experience of my life. I don't think anyone can truly understand the feeling of helplessness I felt being out there in the forest in the middle of nowhere at night, and stalked by some insane person. Maybe they set up home in that abandoned lodge. I really don't know. But from everything I saw and experienced there, I don't think anyone should go back to find out.